On March 11th of this year, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. 7 months have passed, and in that time, we've lost more than 10,000 Canadian lives, a grim milestone that we hit today. And as we mark it, we want to share a few stories of loss to remind us all about the impact of the virus. Arlene Reed was a 51-year-old personal support worker from Brampton, Ontario. The mother of 5 worked with the Victoria Order of Nurses and was one of the first healthcare workers in the country to die from the virus. Her family says she loved her job, loved caring for others, and had a heart as big as her smile.
Her love for the 5 of us was like, it was so deep. Like, she was our rock in everything that we did and everything we tried to do.
Let's go to Kimberley Delauney. Her father, Roger Moreau, was also a victim. Kimberley, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Marilla. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I think that, like everyone, we're coping, getting through COVID, getting through, the process after somebody passes away during COVID to get through all of those stages. So I think one day at a time.
Now, we didn't know too much about the virus in the early months. We have more knowledge now than we did back then. But when you found out your father tested positive, what was going through your mind?
I think that we were really shocked. So my father had fallen and broken his neck last year and had fought. He was a true French-Canadian spirited man with lots of passion and fought it. And I think we were shocked that the thing that was going to take him was going to be COVID, because he had fought for a year to get through that, having broken his neck, and COVID took him within 3 days. Like, it happened so fast that we barely had time to adjust to what had just happened, and we lost him.
Did you get to see him to say goodbye?
No, my mother and I had seen him on the weekend, and we were called by public health on the Monday to say that St. Vincent had shut down, and then my father had COVID. So we were not allowed to see him again. So it would have been the second time round that we were experiencing that. And so we had such strange things that, you have to sort of cope along the way. And so St. Vincent's was just amazing. They had FaceTime on their phone, and we were able to sort of see my father that way. And as his condition was worsening, and we knew he wouldn't make it, he wasn't strong enough to deal with COVID and everything else he was dealing with. And they were able to arrange with a priest to do the last rites. I mean, the amount that healthcare goes to the ends of the earth to make things happen for families that, I think that some of these things never get noticed or recognized, but to be able to give my father his last rites in a time when COVID was present and they had phones and the priest was, at his church and everybody's just communicating on FaceTime, and they had a baby monitor in there that they used to have my dad so he could hear what was going on, and he wasn't really conscious at the time, but that he could at least hear what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. We're Canadians. We pull together. We make it happen.
Your dad suffered from dementia, and you were saying, he might not have been fully conscious at the time, but you hope on some level he's taking it in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that COVID has been incredibly difficult for all families that have loved ones in long-term care, and in this case, in hospital, that have dementia and Alzheimer's, because when you're not there, you're not touching their hand, you're not letting them see you, you're not bringing back those memories, they quickly fade. And when we stopped seeing my dad in March, and when we came together and we were able to see him again in June, he didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And,
and that's a whole different level of loss, right? When they don't recognize you anymore. I understand. I also want to ask you about, we keep seeing this picture of your dad dressed up as Santa, and I guess that's your mom dressed up as Mrs. Claus, and they're together. Yes. Is that sort of one of your favorite memories about your dad?
My dad, and we should say that he was a helper to Santa Claus. The real Santa Claus is still at the North Pole, but he was just a helper for my dad, for Santa Claus. But my mother and him, they were Mr. and Mrs. Claus. Like, they they did it for 40 years. They have been in Mr. and Mrs. Claus and going into, long-term care homes and hospitals with children. And they have been doing it for so long that I don't know that my father even stopped being Santa Claus when it wasn't the season.
Hmm.
Like, he just was that jovial, happy man who just loved children so much. And, the children would come back year after year to come and see him. Like, they were teenagers and they were still coming to see him.
Yeah,
it was pretty amazing.
that's quite a statement, right? When they do that and they recognize that kindred spirit.
Yeah.
Kimberley, I got to leave the conversation there, but thank you for sharing it. I know it isn't easy to do, so I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for caring.
Take care.